Hey, you made it. Welcome to iOS 12 Masterclass. I am so excited you're here. Johnny's excited you're here. We cannot wait to dive into Swift 4 and iOS development with you. This video is essentially going to be a quick overview of what you're going to learn in this course. We're going to go through the curriculum really briefly and then send you on your way to learning a bit about your instructors, learning how to install Xcode, the application that we're going to be writing code in and building apps in, and then kind of a bit of a guideline of where to start depending on your experience level. So let's go into the What Will I Learn section and scroll through it really briefly. First of all, you are going to enter into the intro to the course. That's what you're in right now. And like I said, we're going to install Xcode 10. You're going to learn how to get help. You're going to build your very first app in the very first section. It's going to be amazing. Then we're going to move on to using a tool called Swift Playgrounds. And this is basically like a sandbox play environment that you can write code in and see how it works in real life. You'll learn everything from variables and constants to arrays, dictionaries, functions, loops. If these things are all sounding overwhelming and confusing, don't worry. We will go through them slowly, individually, and make sure that you understand before continuing. You can always rewatch these videos, watch them at a faster or a slower pace depending on your needs. Don't even worry. It's going to be great. After we learn about Swift, or the beginnings of Swift, we're going to dive into the Xcode application, which, like I said, is the program where we're going to write Swift code and build applications. You'll also learn about a very special tool called Interface Builder that Apple have created to make it very easy to build gorgeous and really functional user interfaces in iOS applications. You'll learn everything about the layout of Xcode in general, a special thing called auto layout that needs to be considered when developing applications, and even things like IB outlets and IB actions. After that, you're going to move into Intermediate Swift. And Intermediate Swift is basically just taking what you know about Swift a little bit further with things like classes and structs, which are all a very important part of object-oriented programming, which we'll discuss then. We'll also learn about things like inheritance and polymorphism, and even things like enumerations. After that, we'll move on to the most commonly used design pattern in iOS development, Model View Controller. Don't worry about that too much until then. Following that, you'll dive into using UI Table View and UI Collection View, which is great for showing data that you need to organize or put into a very succinct, easy to manage way. Okay, UI Table View is great for that, and UI Collection View is basically the same thing, but with a bit of added flexibility. After that, you'll learn about Git, GitHub, and Terminal, and the overlying principle here is version control. How can we manage versions of our code, especially when working with a team? This is going to be a really good way to learn how to do that. Moving on, we'll learn about what is new in Swift 4 and what is new in Xcode 10. This is going to be great for those of you who have already taken an iOS development course but maybe want to get brushed up on Swift 4 and Xcode 10. What things are new? What can you now do in iOS? That will be a great place to begin for you. After that, we'll dive into making web requests with what is called a RESTful API. You'll learn about things like URL sessions, working with APIs, Alamo Fire, closures, and completion handlers. And if all of that sounds like complete nonsense to you, that's totally fine. Basically, this is going to be connecting to the internet, downloading data to the device, and using it. It's going to be really cool, and there are so many uses for this specific skill. Moving on, we're going to talk about Firestore and Firebase. These are tools provided by Google that have a very generous free tier that allow you to have a real-time live database interacting with your application. It's a very, very cool framework, and it's really good to know how to use. After that, we'll talk about core data. And core data is basically a way to store data on your device. To persist data is the term that we will learn. We'll learn about everything from creating models, creating entities and attributes, saving and fetching data to the persistent store, and removing data from the persistent store as well. After that, we'll dive into some of the really cool iOS 12 stuff like CoreML 2, where you'll learn how to build your own machine learning models, recognize objects in images and faces, as well as text and sentiment analysis in CoreML. After that, we'll learn about some Siri shortcuts, some of the new features that you can do with Siri shortcuts in your applications to allow Siri to be able to make your app a little more easy to use and a little more robust. After that, we're going to dive into a big, beefy section on ARKit 2. We have a lot in store for you there, so get excited. You're going to learn everything from the basics to placing objects in 3D space, detecting images and tracking those images so that you can place 3D models on top of them, scanning and detecting 3D objects, as well as AR scene recovery. Finally, at the very end, we'll teach you all that you need to know about submitting apps to the App Store, so that the apps that you build in this course, if you want to take them a step further, add your own touch to them, you can submit them to the App Store and even potentially start making money with them. How cool would that be? We'll teach you how to design and export app icons, how to facilitate beta testing with TestFlight, and then finally hitting that big submit button and sending it away to the App Store. If you're excited and ready to dive in, let's head over to the next video where you're going to get to know Johnny, one of the co-instructors of this course, and we'll take it from there. Let's head over there now and let's do it. Again, welcome to iOS 12 Masterclass.